YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. 4 teams remain. Conference championships this week. Excited for that. In this video, we're going to continue on with our playoff rankings. We're not only going to rank the 4 teams that are still alive, but the 4 teams that were just eliminated, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to take a look at the matchups for the AFC and NFC Championship games, give you key numbers, key thoughts, X factors, some similar matchups these teams had during the year. So there's a lot in this video. Really excited about it. Our next video will be our weekly picks video. So we'll see our conference championship picks. We'll have score predictions and a lot more off-season content this week as well. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. A lot going on there. Some instant thoughts during games about coaching news. And check out our sponsors, Liquid IV, GLD Shop, code GO. It's that giveaway for GLD. Link pinned in the comments. It's kind of coming to an end. Next weekend, I think we'll announce that. We'll have a live stream. So we're going to start with the playoff rankings. I always rank the teams that were just eliminated. So the Texans I had at number 7 going into the divisional round. We're going to finish them. We're going to have them finish at 8. They played a really solid first half against the Ravens, actually. Honestly, they might have outplayed the Ravens in the first half. I know they didn't score once on offense. They had a punt return, but they actually moved the ball and they kind of shot themselves in the feet, to not score. And then the Ravens just completely dominated them in the second half. I think adjustments, I don't know if there was lack of adjustments from the Texans. I think adjustments by both teams and just the better team kind of took over with those adjustments is kind of what happened. So the second half kind of showed the difference in where those teams are at. It's okay for the Texans because they obviously have a future. I'm really excited about their future. I was saying that going into this year as well. They're going to finish as the number 8 team in the NFL. 7. We had the Bucs at 8. I moved them up to 7. They impressed me a little bit more than the Texans. They both played tough in the first half, and they kind of just got outplayed in the second half just because the better team found a way. That's really just what it was. The Bucs are similar to the Texans. They kind of shot themselves in the feet a little bit. Shot themselves in the foot. I never know what to say, foot or feet. It's foot. And, because I really credit to the Lions too, because some of those blitzes were key to stop good drives for the Bucs, and they just really had no answer for it. So that was actually a big part. Second half, it kind of just showed the Lions were the better team. The Bucs improved throughout this year, big time, especially mid-season when they were struggling on defense. I was surprised they didn't blitz as much as they did. I know you couldn't blitz as much as you did against the Eagles, but it wasn't anywhere near the same. But they ended up going much further than expected, so they are number 7. I was very impressed with the Packers. I mean, they were 6 last week, and they were 6 after going into this divisional round. They were 6, and they're going to finish at 6. But I'm much more impressed with them than that. It doesn't really show by that rank. They very well could be the second best team in the NFC. That very well could have been the deciding factor. We don't know that for sure, but the deciding factor who goes to the NFC Championship game. The Packers, you could definitely argue, outplayed the 49ers. They made them uncomfortable. They played very well. Jordan Love had some, slip-ups at the end, I suppose. They had the missed kick. But that's a good team. It's a dangerous team. They ran the ball well. They threw the ball fairly well. They could have finished better in the end. Defense, I don't know what happened in the defense, in a good way, because they were the worst in football over the course of I don't know how many weeks. Look, going back to the Bucs game, wasn't that long ago, the Panthers game, Giants game even, and they fixed something. So I think they got a really good coaching staff. Jordan Love had some of those young moments, throwing that hero ball play across body, off one foot. A little too much of throwing off one foot. It looks pretty, and he has some wild moments, but he had some really good moments in this game as well. But it's a scary team for the future, as long as they don't, what they've changed doesn't really get kind of figured out, or Jordan Love, I don't really, then they're just talented enough and young enough and continue to develop where, they're going to continue to get better and be very good. So I'm very much impressed with the Green Bay Packers, despite them finishing number 6. And then the Bills at 5. That's how good the Packers are, because honestly, I sat down and I considered the Packers at 5, but because that's how much they impressed me. But the Bills are, at the end of the day, probably the better team. Throughout most of this game, even though it was back and forth, I don't know about you guys, but the feeling I got throughout most of this game was the Bills are probably going to win this game. They're, it's interesting. The defense struggling, but I got the feeling that Josh Allen was going to do enough. I know he's playing maybe the best in football on Patrick Mahomes. You're playing against him, but it was a tough loss for the Bills. Missed field goal. I would have liked for them not even to attempt that field goal, but then again, 4th and 9 is pretty tough. But the way you're moving the ball all game, and but I before then, I think I would have liked for them to play, like, call plays to where, and they actually might have, but I was going to say to call plays to, like, knowing that they have 4 downs, because if you kick the field goal, even if you make it, Mahomes has a minute, whatever, 50, 40, whatever it was, to go and score. If you continue to get first downs, you run more clock, and then you have a chip shot field goal with no time, or you score a touchdown with less than a minute, 30, 40, 50, whatever the hell it was. It was somewhere around there for Patrick Mahomes, so, which he's probably the best of all time scoring in those situations. So I almost want to go, like, blame the coaching and the play callers, but they may have called plays to do that or gave Josh Allen options to do that, because we saw that shot to the end zone where Diggs was wide open underneath. So there was that underneath available. But I also don't want to blame Josh Allen completely, because he saw an open guy for a touchdown. Of course you want your guy to be the guy. Like, I want him to go for it. I don't want him to see only the checkdowns. And it was an underthrow. He did get bumped. It's not like Deion Dawkins got blown out of the water on that. He could have been better. But so you can't, my point is, you can't, at first glance, I kind of wanted to blame the coaching staff. I still would prefer them to go for it on 4th and 9. Tough to make that decision on 4th and 9. And I guess it's easy to say after he missed the kick. But I was kind of thinking it before. But it's tough to fully blame them, because they may have called plays or given them options to hit the underneath plays and keep the drive rolling. It was kind of a mixture of both, like downfield and underneath. So you can put a little bit of blame at the coaching staff there. You can't fully blame Josh Allen for going for that big play. He was a little bit of an underthrow. He did get hit as he threw it. Maybe the ball could have came out a little earlier, been tough, but maybe a little bit of blame there, but not full. Deion Dawkins got beat, but it wasn't like he got blown by like instantly. So a little bit of blame there on that play. We can't blame it all on one play at the same time. So it was kind of a mixture there, but I don't want to, say that. I don't want to focus on Josh Allen in that regard too much, because he played an insane game. Played well enough to win. At times it showed like it was. Is this, you see Patrick Mahomes, is this the best player in football? You see Lamar Jackson the day before, is this the best player in football? You see Josh Allen, you going like, this might be the best player in football. So he definitely played well enough. Defense really struggled. Too many easy big plays for the Chiefs, and that was kind of the difference in that one. So tough. The Bills can't get over the hump. This was a great opportunity, this game. Chiefs players, I know the Bills were missing players on defense, but the Chiefs players were dropping too. Willie Gay, Joe Tooney was a huge one. And they're at home, and Josh Allen's playing as good as ever. This was their opportunity. Missed opportunity from Stephon Diggs down the field as well as another one. He didn't seem really the same as he was the last couple years, so that was tough. Because the whole thing about the Bills was not just Josh Allen. They had so many different ways of beating you, but we need Diggs to, and he's good still, but we need him to be Diggs. And it sucks they're missing Gabe Davis, I suppose. So they were 3. I had them going to the Super Bowl, actually, and they ended up number 5. The top 4, the teams that are remaining, we're still going to go over the matchups, the keys to the game, things like that, X factors in this video. I'm going to go Lions at 4. Obviously a very good team, a top 4 team. And they beat the Chiefs this year. It was game 1. That game could have went either way. I do feel like some of those teams all those teams have very solid offense. Like, you look at all 4 of them. They all could run the ball. They all could pass the ball. Some better than others or not, whatever, but they all have offenses, explosive offenses. They all are unique in their own way, but they all could pass and they all could run. So I love that. I think the difference is defense. And the Lions do a good job stopping the run. I thought Aaron Glenn called a pretty good game against the Bucs. And so that was solid, but I do, pass defense really is the difference. The Ravens, Chiefs, and the 49ers all have very solid pass defenses, and they're actually top 3 in points per game allowed. So that is the difference, I guess, when comparing the 4 teams. But the Lions, obviously, I mean, all the teams are kind of streak. Well, the 1 seed's only played 1 game to playoff. Lions got 2 in a row, so that's good for momentum. Their physicality, you probably could argue they're number 1. The 49ers are pretty damn physical. The Ravens are physical. They're all physical, but yeah, playing the Bucs too, it's tough, because these rankings are kind of based on what they're capable of, my feelings on the team, and how they are currently playing in the playoffs. The Lions are playing very good, and I love the second half. Kind of just, you can feel it. Like, the Lions are just better. Like, the game was close. The Lions were just, for a little bit, it was close, but the Lions are just better, so I love that about them in that game, and they kind of showed that. So they were 5. They're now number 4. Number 3, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. They did beat a very good team in the Bills, so I consider them being ranked higher. Looks like you can run the football on them if I had to nitpick, but Patrick Mahomes playing as good as as he can. Dominating the pass game there. Explosive plays are there. The defense, in terms of pass defense, is definitely there. They're sneaky running the football, like how physical Pacheco is. But an impressive win against the Bills in Buffalo. So if that was in Kansas City, I would expect them to win. But a very impressive win, and being that consistent throughout the game on offense, I love that for them. So they are 3. 2, I have the Niners at 1. I think factoring in that, the field, the NFC, who they are like compared against, and how complete of a team they were, that kind of had me at number 1 with them. They were a little sloppy against the Packers. They did win. That's kind of the positive. Like, I thought Shanahan had his head in his ass really in that game, going away from the run and the whole clock management. And the first half, it's like, and then just give the ball to McCaffrey. Big play, touchdown. All right, let's not give the ball to McCaffrey for a while. And like, the Packers are known for not stopping the run, and your best player is McCaffrey. And then it's looking like they might lose. And then, all right, let's give the ball to McCaffrey. Touchdown. So he had his head in his ass a little bit, minus the last drive. Debo got hurt right away. Wasn't their night, really, and they still won. So I guess there's a positive at the end of that, because if they play their game, they're much better. So just getting out with the win. But no matchup against the Lions, obviously, but the end of the regular season, I had the Ravens won. The Ravens were the best team in the regular season for the playoffs, and I factored in like who you play, who you're matched, like who we're comparing them against, the NFC teams, the AFC teams for the most part. So that was a reason Niners were one for the playoffs, but the Ravens and everyone else was close. I know the Chiefs probably had the most impressive matchup win. But who was the most impressive specifically? I look at in the first half, they might have got outplayed a little bit, but the second half was pure domination from the Ravens, and kind of showing that in that defense. Like, what's the difference between all 4 teams right now? Like, they all can play offense, they all can run the ball, they all can pass the ball. 3 of the teams have a good pass defense. They're all fairly solid stopping a run. The Ravens had some hiccups during the year. They were great in that last game. Chiefs, I guess middle of the pack stopping a run. But what is the major, if you had to pick out one thing like that stands out the most? You could argue like Patrick Mahomes, that passing game, but I look at the entire unit, the entire side of the ball of the Baltimore Ravens. I think there's some really good defenses out there, but the Ravens defense is different than the rest. The coaching, the playmaking ability, the adjustments, just the confusion for the offense, not allowing an offense a touchdown against the Texans. These things in the second half really showed. So that's the reason I think they're belonging at number 1. So mainly kind of based on how teams are currently playing, a mixture of what they're capable of, in my opinion, in the playoffs. So that's where I come up with the rankings. So there's a kind of a different sections of this video. So there's the rankings. Now we're going off. It's almost like a 2-parter here. I want to take a look at the matchups. And so we're going to start with the AFC Championship game. We're going to take a look at more than just numbers and rankings here. So I came up with a lot of good things. But the Chiefs, I like just comparing things here. Chiefs surprisingly had the number 15 scoring offense this year, where the Ravens had the number 2 scoring offense. And comparing offense to defense, 15 versus number 1 defense. I don't know if we could take that number 15 number too seriously. I think we all know the Chiefs scoring offense is better than that, but there is a maybe, like a reason where it could be better than that or not. And we'll kind of get into that. The keys of the game has to do with the offense. Well, I mean, we can say it now, the red zone offense. They have to execute in the red zone. And you just see some similarities in defense there. Number 2 scoring defense versus the number 1 scoring defense. I thought that was Pretty interesting. Number 1 versus number 2. Crazy seeing the Chiefs there in the top 2, but they were this year. Pass defense, it's number 4 versus number 5. And run defense is, I guess, if you had to say a weaker part of the defense, that's probably it. For these teams, even though the Ravens' run defense was lights. I think the Ravens' run defense was better than that number shows this in the divisional round. The Chiefs, probably worse. James Cook had himself a day. But in the fourth quarter, they were pretty good. They figured something out, so the adjustments. So defensively, according to the numbers, pretty similar. But I think we can expect the Ravens' defense to be a little bit better than those numbers show. But the offense, I think we could expect the Chiefs' offense to be a little bit better than those numbers show there. But I guess the difference in like where their strengths are, like the pass offense for the Chiefs, but the rush offense for the Ravens. But the Ravens could be sneaky in the pass game, but the Chiefs can be very sneaky in the run game. That's why this is a very, very cool matchup here for both sides of the ball and like where they're comparable. So I thought those were interesting numbers. Where I do want to spend a little more time to talk about is some of these other things that came up. Similar matchups. In the regular season, the playoffs of the regular season is different, but I thought it was interesting to see like where were there similar, like who have they been tested? Have they been tested in different categories? So for the Chiefs, like who is the most like Ravens talent level, like in terms of Ravens skill? I would say the Bills, who they just played and they just beat 27-24. They did lose to them 17-20 in the playoffs, but in terms of the Ravens skill level, I think the Bills, how talented they are, and Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they're different, but there's some similarities with the run game. So I thought that was kind of the closest. In terms of Ravens offense that the Chiefs have played this year, that was a tricky one. The Lions, Jared Goff isn't a runner, so it's tough to say fully the Lions because Goff and Lamar are two totally different things, but in terms of the talent of the offense, but also how physical they are running the football, but they could be sneaky passing the ball as well. So that was probably the closest thing there, and it was the first game of the year, though, and they did lose 20-21. And the closest thing, the Ravens' defense, really the only thing close. After the Jets, I don't think there was anything anywhere close, but the Jets actually is pretty similar in terms of the Ravens' defense. Mixing up the coverages, really strong in the secondary. The pass defense really strong. And the Chiefs, the way that game started was they were going to dominate the Jets. But then the Jets defense kind of figured something out there. So could the Ravens defense do something similar? And then for the Ravens, trying to find the most, the closest thing that they played to the Chiefs skill level, I'd say the 49ers, another team that's still alive right now. And the Ravens did pretty solid against them. But the closest thing to the Chiefs offense, which they haven't really seen a long list of teams that are pretty similar to the Chiefs offense. You could say 49ers because they have an explosive offense, but the quarterback difference, the only similarities, they're explosive, they're pretty good on offense, but the quarterback difference is significant in the style of play of the quarterback. So actually the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense to me was clearly the Rams, which that was kind of the only time the Ravens offense struggled this year. It felt like maybe the Ravens defense, excuse me. And then there's probably some more moments throughout games, but the Rams were able to push the ball downfield, and they're actually able to run the football as well. But the Ravens did hold on to that game 37-31. So that was interesting. This is probably going to be it's pretty similar, the style of offense and how they air the ball downfield. And then what's the closest thing to the Chiefs defense? Yeah, I don't really look for all on the talent level. I kind of look for coverages, what they run, how the defenses ran in general. And the Ravens did play the Steelers twice. I'm not going to count the second time though, because there was a lot of backups in there. But the first time they did lose to them 10-17, and the Ravens could not really move the ball like they normally do. It was very early in the season, but there are some similarities with a lot of cover two, in the randomly blitz. It's the way Mike Tomlin and Spagnuolo kind of call their defenses is pretty similar. And actually the Chiefs defense has been better this year. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So trying to find some opponents or some games this year that were like similar in different ways, not just off a talent level. I thought that was interesting to look at. And then X factors that I came up with for the Chiefs, I think Isaiah Pacheco is the biggest X factor. Like, I mean, if you want to sit down and say like who's the most important player in the game, you're probably gonna go with both quarterbacks. But X factors, I look at Pacheco, and I thought he was a big X factor against the Bills. He ran the ball very effectively in crucial situations. But against the Ravens Again, really good defense, best in football. Statistically, they haven't been great. They've been okay stopping the run. Last week against the Texans, they dominated against the run, though. But there was other teams they played where Kyron Williams was able to run them. Christian McCaffrey was able to run them. There was more than that. Like, it looked like during the year, it's like if there was anything you could do on the Ravens, it'd be running the football. So Pacheco, when he gets his opportunities, because he's not going to carry the ball 30 times a game. He has to do his thing, like what he did against Buffalo. So I think that's like a key guy to watch here. And for the Ravens, I'm going to go Kyle Hamilton because we're going to see him cover Travis Kelce a bit. We're going to see him, playing in the box a bit, getting in the backfield. We're going to see him downfield. His different alignments in every snap could throw off an offense. So I think that's pretty key. And maybe he's a guy that can, make sure to get after Mahomes as he's scrambling. So I think he'll have several responsibilities. So I think that is kind of a key for the biggest maybe X factor for the Ravens for those reasons. And then coming up with my keys to the game, I think the Chiefs should start unexpected, like surprisingly, with the run game. And I do want the Chiefs to take deep shots because the Ravens haven't really seen a team that really just airs the ball downfield except for the Rams, and that worked. So I think that's actually the main thing of what's going to work. But that doesn't mean do it like over and over and over or start with it, because the Ravens are going to sit there and what are they going to game plan for? They're going to game plan for that. They're going to game plan for Patrick Mahomes. He's the best player in football. That's the guy you have to worry about the most. So they're going to be playing off a bit, and they're going to be worried about right off the bat the passing game downfield because they feel like that's what the Chiefs do the most. Like, even when they're good running the football, they don't do it enough. They don't do it a lot. So if the Chiefs come out and they run the football early when the Ravens really are probably just more worried about Patrick Mahomes, and again, the Ravens, even though they were excellent stopping a run last week, there's been moments this year where you could actually run the ball on them. And when they're not expecting it, when they're playing back, you should be able to run the ball. So almost run the ball to open up the deep shots. I think that could be keys for the Chiefs there. Try to force Lamar to the sideline. I thought the Titans in the playoffs a few years ago, the Ravens also beat the Titans, one of those years as well. But I thought they did a really good job of playing inside the hashes, and just keeping several bodies in there. And it's easy to say, way easier said than done, because when Lamar has a day running, maybe at one point he'll be on the sideline, but he cuts back in, goes up the middle of the field. So if you can kind of push him to the sideline, force him to run out, that would be ideal. And that kind of goes in actually with the coverage. The Chiefs run a lot of cover too. I think that's really good against the Ravens for several reasons. Because trying to force Lamar and those receivers to hit that hole shot in cover two, because you want your corner to be physical and run with the receiver as long as possible, but the opening is that small window on the sideline in between the safety and the corner and cover two. So, not the easiest throw in the world unless you're like an elite passer. And I do believe that Lamar is a very good passer, but he's not Patrick Mahomes in terms of passing, things like that. And the receivers are pretty young. Besides OBJ, Zay Flowers, the best receiver, is pretty young. So I think trying to trap them in that regard with that cover two, I think is your best bet. And the Chiefs do run cover two is good they'll run some two-man under as well. I'm okay with that. I just don't want too much like single coverage or too much man coverage, because a lot of man coverage forces corners or just guys in coverage to run with receivers and turn your body and get downfield. So what the Ravens would be able to do then is, if they know they're in man coverage, is get their receivers downfield, even the running back downfield, make the defenders in coverage turn their body. Lamar takes off. It is free yards. You don't want that situation. But I think cover two also helps for keeping an eye on Lamar and his scrambling ability, or just the run game in general, because the corners eventually sit down and they kind of watch the quarterback in cover two. And like I said, I don't want Lamar inside. I want him kind of forced to the sideline. So I think having guys kind of being able to sit and read that and being able to make their move, I think is pretty big. So I don't want them running all cover two, obviously, but and they could blitz in obvious passing situations. Got to be careful with Lamar's scrambling ability, though. And I think red zone offense for the Chiefs will decide the game because the offense can move the ball, all right? But their scoring offense has been a little bit down this year because of mistakes by the receivers dropping the football. So that's a big thing, too, catch the football. But red zone offense, like even against the Dolphins, they moved the ball with ease, but they just could not score touchdowns in the red zone. And the Ravens have the best defensive football, but the Texans were able to move the ball. There was times where, like, Texans moving the ball pretty easy, like in the first half. But it's like as soon as they got in the Ravens territory, the Ravens figured something out. They shut them down. So the Chiefs are going to have to be able to win that battle there. For the Ravens, run the football. The Chiefs are really good against the pass. That cover 2 could actually throw the receivers and Lamar off a little bit. The Chiefs let James Cook run all over them. Josh Allen run all over them. Run the football, Ravens. You can control the game. You can win the game doing that. More design Lamar runs because it's one thing to stop like a traditional just handoff, things like that, or even a sweep, but having those read options and different design runs from Lamar Jackson is just a whole different game plan, a whole different situation. So I'd love that. Ease up on the blitz. The Ravens are really good at getting sacks, but it's not because they have their sack artists out there. You know, they have good players. And I guess statistically, you know, Madubuike has been a sack artist, I guess statistically, but they don't have your Chris Joneses out there. You know, they get it because they rush in unique ways. They don't blitz an insane amount, but it comes up in big moments of the games, and it has worked this year. It has worked. I don't know if it really worked that well against, you know, Matt Stafford, but they haven't, you know, it's worked for the most part. Mahomes is better when you blitz him, though. So you're going to have to ease up on in those crucial moments. You might rather not do it. So that's a tough part because they found unique ways to get pressure. Continuing mixing up the coverage is a great thing about the Ravens defense, why it's so good. Like 1 second they're in cover 2, 1 second they're in cover 4, 1 second they're in man coverage. They're mixing it up completely, and that is the way to go. Don't let Mahomes going to figure it out. I trust him. Those receivers mainly. Those, like Rashee Rice, their best receiver, he's very, very young. Is he reading coverages on the fly? He probably is, better than you think, but for a rookie. But if you're mixing it up, you're going to throw him off. You know, a guy like MVS had a clutch game last game, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, that is. But he's kind of like a straight runner. I'm going to go deep. Like, is he going to be able to read coverages and change his route based on the coverages? A big question. Kelsey could read coverages, but the more you confuse the offense, the better, especially these receivers, in my opinion. And like the Chiefs, red zone offense will decide the game. Red zone defense will decide the game. The Chiefs are either going to win in the red zone, or they're going to lose. Like their downfall is not scoring enough touchdowns enough rather than field goals in the red zone. And the Ravens have been stopping teams in the red zone. So that sides towards the Ravens getting the job done, right? But if they don't, like if the Chiefs have a better percentage than not scoring in the red zone, I would say the Chiefs are going to win the football game. So I think that's pretty key in this game here. Moving on to the same thing for the NFC Championship game, the Lions versus the 49ers, and some similarities here when it comes to offense. Scoring offense, 5 versus 3. The Niners get the edge there. Pass offense, 3 versus, I thought that was interesting. 3 versus 4, that the Lions have a better pass offense than rush offense, because I think the Lions, and it is true though, but I do think they play small ball, whether it's run the football and be physical or underneath, to open up more in the passing game. So I do think what's more important to them is the underneath game, the run game specifically, even though they're number 3 pass, number 7 rush, and the number 4 for the 49ers for both. So they're right next to each other pretty much for scoring offense and pass offense, and not too far off at all for the rush offense. Defense is where there is one similarity, one away. The Lions have the number 2 run defense. 49ers have the number 3 run defense. They surprisingly, neither were that great last week. It didn't show for the Lions as much because the Bucs had to get to a point where they just got to pass. But Rachaad White was actually, I think it was because it was unpredictable. That's why they were a little thrown off on, like, I did not expect the Bucs to run when they were running. So maybe that's what threw them off a little bit. And the 49ers, you know, Aaron Jones beat them up pretty good. And the Packers offensive line, the Lions got a good offensive line. They can do a similar thing there. But overall, they're very good run defense. The big difference is the pass defense and the scoring defense. the top 3 scoring defenses are actually still remaining, the 2 AFC teams and the Niners. And then there you got the Lions at 23. So that was interesting. Pass defense is 31. They did a much better job last week, but you can beat them down the field. So interesting numbers there. Who are the similar matchups for these teams during the year? For the 49ers skill, you could go Chiefs. That was the first game, so the first game of the year is not really going to tell us much. It's going to tell us less. So the Ravens would be the other one, and that did not go well for the Lions. They were kind of due for a maybe bad game. It's the regular season, but it was a tough one. Closest thing to the 49ers offense is definitely the Packers. I mean, LaFleur, Shanahan run a similar West Coast style offense. They're equally effective running and passing the ball. There's gonna be a lot of play action. There's gonna be plays getting to the tight, making sure you get in the tight end. On rollouts, it's for sure the most similar for the Lions going against that offense. And they beat the Packers the first time 34-20. They lost to them the second time 22-29. And it happened to be another division. I don't know if there's really a clear and obvious similar matchup for the Lions going against 49ers defense. I do think it's the Bears, though. They do a really good job in cover 2 and cover 3, and they'll randomly mix in some unpredictable man in there. They both stop the run at a very high level. So I think that was probably the more similar. In the first time, the Lions did a really good job on offense, even though it took a late comeback. But the second time, I thought that was Goff's maybe worst game. So I would expect him to play better than that game, but that was interesting. So there are some similarities in where their strengths are to that Bears defense. For the 49ers going against the Lions, Lions skill level, I definitely say Rams. We knew that matchup between the Lions and the Rams was pretty dead even. It was going to be a really good game, and it's still to this point been the best game, or the Niners-Packers in the playoffs, and it was a 1-point game. It was a dead even game. Also, they're more offensive heavy than defensive heavy, the Rams, just like the Lions. Some similarities with the play calling as well, the style of offense. So that's definitely like the very similar team in game, in my opinion. Not going to count the second time they played because it was backups on both teams. So the one time was 30-23 Rams. Lions offense, I didn't know if there was like that clear cut of a similar one. I'll go with Packers as well, just because they're very balanced running and passing the football. And you look at the Packers and Lions offensive lines, how they play. And that was just the last game for the Niners. They struggled a little bit, but they found a way to win. Lions defense, this is actually this is a good look for a good sign for the 49ers, because the Jaguars and the Lions defense, I'd say the thing going for the Lions is they're maybe you'd like to think they're a little bit better, and they're still alive. The Jaguars didn't even make the playoffs, but specifically talking defense and similarities, it is very, very similar. They're both really good run defenses, but they both give up explosive plays through the air, and they'll give up some points. They both will play a lot of man coverage. They both will blitz. We'll see, safety blitzes. They are very, very similar defenses in terms of where their strengths and weaknesses, what they give up, what type of coverages they run, the blitzing amount. Jaguars will blitz a little bit more. So, and the Niners had a really good, not that it means a whole lot. Regular season playoffs a little different. The Lions are better than the Jaguars, but 34-3 is what the Niners did. But that is actually, I thought that was interesting. It's almost the same defense in terms of everything I just listed. So that was an interesting one there. But again, I always say it a lot. The playoffs, regular season, much, much different. X factors. Lions, I almost went with Melifonwu or Brian Branch, because mainly Melifonwu, because he's a blitzing factor, but he also makes plays in the back end. So we'll talk about the keys, but I think get him like surprise blitzes that Baker didn't even see coming, the offensive line didn't see coming. It probably wasn't part of the game plan. I think could throw off an inexperienced quarterback like Brock Purdy, and maybe cause him to make mistakes. Brock Purdy sometimes will, pick a player and he'll try to throw them downfield. So if Melifonwu keeps his eyes on him when he's in coverage, I think he can make plays. So I almost went with Melifonwu for that reason, but I'm going to go with Lee McNeil. Lee McNeil's a stud, nose tackle, stopping the run. He's a major reason why the Lions' run defense is really good. When he was out, they weren't as good. Obviously, going to be playing in this game. McCaffrey and the 49ers' rush offense is a different animal. The Lions have not seen that, even though they're the number 2 run defense this year. So that is going to be a battle, and that's how the Niners eventually win games. Most time win games mainly. Even, they didn't run the ball enough to McCaffrey, but they found a way, and McCaffrey found a way to make two big touchdowns, big plays. So if they can slow McCaffrey down, it's going to put Purdy in uncomfortable, obvious passing situations, and that will win the game. So it starts with a Lee McNeil there, in my opinion. Niners, I'm going to go Brandon Ayuk. How you beat the Lions is pass the ball downfield. They give up early separation. Ayuk is one of the very best separators in football. He got a lot better this year, so you just can't have an off game. He's going to go out there. He's going to see man coverage. He's got to beat it. When he sees zone, he's got to read it. But there's going to be a lot of man coverage. Just do his thing. Get open and catch the ball. Catch the ball. Don't worry about anything. Don't worry about after the catch that's going to come. He's going to be the big player. It's usually McCaffrey, but Brandon Ayuk's going to be the big player, I think, to win the 49ers game if they win the game. So just can't come out, flat-footed. He's got to play his game here. And then for keys for the Lions, take shots, draw penalties. The Lions they don't have a lot of deep shots, though, and I think that's a good thing because I think they can throw the ball. It's not that they can't do it. They do a lot of dink and dunk and run the football to open things up. The Niners are good at stopping that. They're very good at stopping that. They're going to be ready for it. If you take shots, it would be unexpected, and I think you can have success, and these corners get a little grabby. I think it's been all year, but we saw it last week as well a lot against the Packers. So be unexpected, be creative. It kind of goes into it. The Lions are very creative. I actually say maybe more than usual, be more creative than usual. Don't be afraid to show all your cards. And I'm not saying go out there and fake a bunch of punts. I'm not a big fake punt guy. It depends on the situation. This is the time. To me, I think the Lions are outmatched in this game. Not by a lot, not to the point where they're guaranteed to lose and they're going to get their ass beat. Not saying that at all. The Niners and the Lions have very similar offenses. They both can run and pass the ball. They're both very good there. The Niners could run on anybody, though. The Lions could. They're kind of their thing with their defense stopping to run. The Niners could run on anybody. The pass defense, the Lions, is the big difference. And the Niners are a little more tested for this game as well. For that reason, I think the Lions are a little outmatched, but they're a very good team. So be extra creative. Do not be afraid to show more. Be unpredictable. So that's what I'm saying by that. You're going to have to go all out, obviously, in this game. Continue with that safety blitz, I think, which is a little scary because I do think Ayuk's going to get separation if there's no safety over the top. That's a little tough, but you come to the realization where the Lions struggle to stop the pass. They have done it this year. They're going to struggle in this game. Guys are, Ayuk's going to get open. He's statistically one of the better separators in football. Analytically, I guess we'll say. He's going to get open. So blitz that safety, confuse the hell out of Brock Purdy like you did Baker Mayfield. So continue with that. Be unpredictable both sides of the ball. I think time of possession could decide the game. Whoever has the ball longer, these teams fight to have the more time possession every single game. Whoever has the ball longer gets more chances. I mean, it's easy to say, I suppose. Get Ayuk the ball downfield for the 49ers. That is a key. I already kind of talked about that. He will be open. Brock Purdy, stare his way. If he ends up being doubled, then adjust. Find somebody else. He's gonna be open. It's gonna beat the Lions. Get him the ball. This is an Ayuk game coming up. Don't go completely away from the run though. I'm not saying your best player is Christian McCaffrey. You want to make them fear the run. The Lions stop the run pretty well, but if you start running the ball on them like you do, and they are struggling, it's going to throw them off completely. It's going to have them uncomfortable. It's going to have them a little nervous. So you got to continue to run the ball. I like McCaffrey, take a shot to Ayuk. McCaffrey, take a shot. That's kind of what I'm thinking there. Ease up on the man coverage, more zone. Early in the year, it was pretty much all man. And the Vikings game came around, and Cousins and Addison, they torched him in the man. It was obvious man coverage. I think the Niners started to lose after that as well, and they realized Steve Wilkes is like, okay, past this was a zone defense. I got to run a little bit more zone. So they were doing that a bit more. They still run a lot of man coverage, which we saw. We saw that even in the mistakes of the pass interference were mainly Amory Thomas last week. The Lions can beat anything. They're that good of an offense, but they specifically beat man coverage a ton. Goff's better against man coverage. So for all those reasons, mix it up. Run more zone. They have been, though. I'd say play up and force sideline throws, which is funny because I want the Lions to take shots. I just don't know if they do it. It's really not in their nature to throw that many. And when they do throw downfield, it'll be like 20, 30 yards in the middle of the field. No, those are shots in my opinion, but I want them to be unpredictable and take it, try to take on the corners and man coverage on the field. I just don't think they're going to do that. Play up. Force throws to the sideline. Don't worry about over the top. The Lions against the Bucs, they open things up with the dink and dunk underneath. And it wasn't even designed plays to do that. It just ended up, the Bucs were pretty good coverage for the most part down the field. For the most part, they gave up some big ones. And things were open underneath. So be ready for that. Goff isn't particularly super strong throwing to the sideline. I think he can throw a good fade in the sideline in the end zone, but in the field of play, in the open field, they haven't done a whole lot of it. And we saw them try to hit some crucial out routes or sideline plays in other games, and they weren't, that great against the Bears, against the Cowboys. So play up. I'd say almost a press zone would be great. Try to force sideline throws. Crowd the middle of the field. Force the sideline. They feast off underneath and middle of the field. And again, time of possession, I think at the end of the day will decide this game. This is that type of game. So that's my feelings on the Lions Niners. These both should be really solid games. At least I hope. I want them to be close games. Don't want the officials to decide anything in the end. I just want whoever's playing. I don't give a shit on who you think the better team is going into the game. I don't give a shit on what I think. I'll have an opinion on who the better team is going into the game. I just want to see whoever the better team is on that specific day, that game. That'll be decided in the game. I want that team to win. Nothing else to decide it. So we will see. Nobody knows who that team will be, how it'll play out. I'm excited. We'll have you covered with the rest of the playoffs, the Super Bowl. We have our award stream next week. We'll keep you up to date with that. We have updates and thoughts on Twitter, takes, predictions, rumors. We have off-season content starting to roll out on our channel. So check it out. It's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.